Good morning and welcome to Morning Moments. I am so glad that you came and joined us for another Morning Moments. And I have yet another actor. This is an actor from Michigan. And may I say, I grew up in Michigan and we have a lot in common other than the Spartans and the Wolverines, but we won't go into that. But we have a lot of things in common. And I've just enjoyed getting to know Burke. Burke, welcome to Morning Moments.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Tell me a little bit about what you do and why do you do it?
Well, you've already given away the Michigan side of things. But yeah, I'm born and raised. I'm a Michigander from, start to finish. Never really strayed too far, but I have an amazing family, a wife of 23 plus years, two boys, 21 and 18, the youngest of which has autism, which is a blessing that is absolutely incredible. And the acting, getting into the acting part of it really didn't start until, probably about 7 years ago. Never really had much of an inkling to do any of that. I was very creative, sketched and sang, played trumpet, those kinds of things. But headed to church one day, my wife saw a billboard for AMTC, Actors, Models, Talent for Christ. And my wife had said, honey, why don't you check that out? And it was just like the Holy Spirit just kind of poked me in the ribs and said, hey, why don't you check that out? So I actually did. And I ended up going through that program. Carrie Lewis had done an amazing job with that program. It went from a secular talent competition basically to a missionary training ground, getting people that were interested in the arts, being a dancer, a singer, an actor, or whatever it may be, to prepare them for that industry period, but also to be a light. It was a mission field for her. So I'm really thankful to have that foundation, being new to the industry. And at that time, walked into a local agency in Grand Rapids and said, I know I'm not supposed to just walk in, but here I am anyway. And they said, sure, we'd like to have you be on our roster. So that was my meek beginnings. Did some local commercial work and ads and whatnot. And fast forward now, about 7 years later, I've done, a dozen plus films, tons of commercials. And I'll do one more shout out to Jean at Treasure Coast Talent, an amazing agent, love her to death. And just, I'm excited at what God's doing with that acting career. He's opened so many doors. He's also opened up the writing side of things, taken a story that was originally going to be a book idea, is now a screenplay, which I've already gone through, and it's got its foundation in my own family's story about having a son with autism and kind of our walk and struggle with faith and helping him and justifying how God could make, get anything good out of this and those types of things. So I'm excited. I'm going into new areas that I have very little training, and I'm stumbling and learning, and just enjoying every minute of
it. It's amazing that God, and some of you've heard me say this many times, God doesn't always call the equipped, but he does equip who he calls. And sometimes we walk through doors, we don't even know what we're doing, but as long as you're available,
Right.
your ability is not near as important as your availability.
Yeah.
And when you say, God, here I am, he says, okay, I'll use you.
Yeah, you betcha. Well, and it's being on set, I've gotten to the point now where I'm much better about not getting my hopes up. You get excited for a role or an audition and you really want it. And then if it doesn't go your way, you kind of get dejected and those kinds of things. But kind of going back to the whole reason I got into it, when I go into an audition, and especially if I book a role, if I book something, I know that there's one of two things that are going to happen. I'm either going to have something for someone, God's got something for them that he's going to use me for, or the other way around, or I'm there because he's given somebody else something for me. If that doesn't happen and I don't book it, I guess there was nothing for either one of those things. So I keep that in mind, and I tell you what, it takes a lot of pressure off.
Yeah, and you don't know about the process either. Sometimes the rejections that you got from a audition, they may not give you that part, but 2 years down the road, they remember something that you said or did, and uh, and that moment caused you to have work, or that open door the next
Yeah.
down the road.
Yep. You better believe it. Yep. If you do right, if you're following where he's leading and doing right by people and loving on people, it always comes back around. There's
Yeah.
always fruit that comes later.
Yeah. And if you're seeking God's will today, that's preparation for tomorrow. And you don't, it don't, sometimes, through the years I've gone, why did I go through that? And sometimes some of the darkest times of my life, I wondered why. And I look back at now and go, oh, that's why.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
why there. And I'll do it all again, Lord, just to be right where you want me to be.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think it helps to understand that your story is part of a bigger story. With my writing, the screenplay that I've written, there's some scriptural things as far as the foundation, like John 9, the man born blind. The nothing happened. His parents didn't do anything wrong. He didn't sin. Jesus, said, no, it's because God's going to do something amazing through his life. But there was that long span of time. So he was born blind, lived a good part of his life blind, but there was something God had purposed for that. And that's kind of where all of my writing has come from, is that we've lived that with our own son with autism, is that, why is this happening? But he's got his perfect time set for that healing. We're confident in that, but we've seen so many blessings on that road. So we are less focused on the end result and what we're looking for God to do. And we're saying that maybe what he really wanted was all of this stuff in the middle, the people that we met and could pray for or connect with or just share something with, and vice versa. So I'm learning to see things a little more patiently, not always, but it's just something that he's proven himself, that if we just wait on him and know that he's going to finish what he started. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it takes a while.
He who started the work in me will finish it.
Correct.
He's the author and finisher of our faith.
Right. Yeah.
And we think we want to finish it. I had one of my guests said that God is not done writing our story yet, and he holds the pen.
That's
and I'm
exactly
going,
right.
oh, really? And I want that pen in my hand, and I want to write the story. He goes, no, he's one for us. And I would just mess things up royally if I wrote it. But if we just, it's that timing of waiting on God. And there are so many times when we say, God, I want it, and I want it right now. And he goes, no. Right. There's things that you're going to learn in the journey. The learning is in the journey. The strength is in the struggle. And when we go through that journey with the right attitude and with the right purpose in mind, I think of Moses in the wilderness. Didn't we see that mountain before? Didn't we?
Right. Yeah.
Didn't we cross that mountain?
Yeah.
They circled for 40 years. And I'm thinking, God, I want to learn this lesson now, so I don't have to circle another 40 years.
Right. Yeah.
Because the timing is so important to just wait on him.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, you betcha. Well, and sometimes the timing isn't even for you. It could be for somebody else.
Yes.
And I think that's a big part of it. What you're being asked to do or endure may not necessarily be for you or your benefits. It may be because there's somebody else that has to cross your path at a time. And that's what needs to happen in order for that to happen. So it's awesome. The more that happens in my life, the more in awe of God and how perfect his plans are when things like that happen. And you see, and he always lets you see it after. He doesn't give you the reason until, oh, that's why that, yeah. So,
let me give you a glimpse of why you just went through that. Oh, and it's those faith building experiences that helps us step back the next time and say, okay, God, I saw what you did before, and I know that you're faithful, and you're going to be taking care of what's next.
Well, that's why the children of Israel always say, God would say, just remember, look what I've done. Look what I've done. I've proven myself. I had a quote that I kind of coined myself, that faith has rear view mirrors.
Yeah.
is that you're moving forward in faith, but you can look in that rearview mirror and see what he's already done as you continue to move forward.
I'm going to steal
You're gonna
that.
write that.
I'm stealing that from some. A
It's
lot
not
of
copyrighted,
yeah,
so
yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
take it and run.
Rear view
Yeah,
mirror. A lot of people think, oh, where'd you come from with that? I took it from somebody else. You know,
that's right.
having a dad that was a pastor and being in church. I've been a Christian 57 years, so I've heard a lot of stories and a lot of
Right.
sayings through the years. So
Yeah,
they come back. Well, Burke, it has just been my pleasure and delight to have you on, to hear about your heart, hear about what God has done for you and where you're at. And God's not done with us yet. He's got
no,
plans, a purpose, and a hope for us. Right down below in the comment section, I am going to write more, right where you could get a hold of us. I want you to look at that. I also want you to continue to not only follow him, but let me just say, I want you to continue to follow me on YouTube, my YouTube channel, and then my other interviews that I have out. And more important than anything else, when you think of Burke and his family, I want you to be praying for him, that God would continue just to bless him, let him be the husband, the father, the actor that God wants him to, and whatever he does, and writer now, that God would just continue to bless him. Burke, thank you
thank you.
so much for joining me today.
It was an honor and a blessing. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me for Morning Moments, and please keep coming back.